Hey guys, what's up? Misha from GGD here. Working quickly is an incredibly important part of my creative process, especially when inspiration strikes. So today I'm going to show you how quickly you can get a drum mix going using our new smash and grab compressor. Alright, here we go. So I've got Modern and Massive set up here. This is the setup I'm using. Let's turn the reverb off for now. I've got this routed up multi-out. Basically, I'm routing everything out to its own channel here, and then I'm busing everything with the mix that I like out to these bus channels here, so they're summed. And then I've got two groups for parallel compression and reverb. I've got a little bit of turbo because it's actually a pretty useful thing. Again, we're just trying to get a quick thing going here. So you can see these channels here. You can do them per channel just by sort of clicking on them and adjusting. So I've got turbo on these like that. It shows a little bit of reverb, but I've actually disabled it right here for now. But this is my basic setup. I have everything leveled the way that I like, and this basically sounds like this, just kind of raw. It's not bad. This is also being helped by the fact that I have a master bus going, because I always like to mix into a master bus. So it's compression, limiter, saturator, EQ, all that stuff. Compression, limiter, EQ is all you really need there. Yeah, this is already sounding pretty good. It is getting overwhelmed by the instruments, as you can hear. And we could definitely get this to pop a lot more, and we want to do this quickly, so let's see how quickly I can get a mix together. Again, this is not to get completely done, but it's like to get 90% there so that you could start writing immediately, right? So what I like to do is just, I have this on loop here. So there's a bunch of ways to debate about doing this. I like to compress first and then EQ. So let's throw, and you know what? Let's just go ahead and get all this set up already. So let's start with the kick. So the kick. Now, the easy way to think about this, smash is going to kind of destroy your transients. Grab is just going to grab it and preserve them. So for things with attack, most of these I'll probably keep in grab mode just because I don't want anything that's too extreme. So let's just reduce the threshold a little bit. So we're getting about, you know, between -3 and -6 right there. And then from there, let's put it in the right mode, kick mode. And you can hear it's sort of like giving it this nice sort of plasticky attack, which I like. We can give it a little bit of beef, give it a little bit of air. Now the next thing that we're gonna do is EQ. Might as well just throw a bunch of these as well, just to get those started. So with the kick, you can see there's a lot of dirt in this 200 range. We don't need any of that. Just clean it right up, just like that. I'm gonna high pass it as well. You don't want to go too nuts with that, but you know, or you'll just neuter all the power. And then because I've done such a good job of cutting so much, I can cut even more out. I feel like I can always just add in a little bit, around 100. Gives you a little bit of that punch, but don't go too nuts. Like maybe a DP, right? Then let's listen for some other stuff. Let's listen for this area here. Basically, I'm just listening for frequencies that I'm not really in love with or thinking or adding a whole lot. How much cleaner that gets? Just taking that out. Then we can actually boost the top end a little bit if we want. With this region, this will really sort of define how clicky your kick is. So depending on the style, you can play around with this. But I'm just going for something. You know, the combination of sort of flattening out what's going on here visually, and also just listening for the frequencies I think that are just kind of overbearing or that I wish were boosted a bit. Mostly subtractive, as you can see. So that right there sounds a lot better, I think. All right, next up the snare. So let's take a look at this. Again, probably gonna want to put this in grab so that I preserve my transients. And with this one, we can also kind of compress pretty hard. And we're already in snare mode there, so we don't need to play around with that. And I am kind of doing this by ear, but it is hitting, it looks like -5, -6. It is kind of nice to beef up the snare a little bit. And I'm going to EQ it in a second, but it just gives it a bit more body here. And we can give it a bit more air. You can play around with saturation, but it does by nature chop the transients, and I do want to preserve that. I want this channel to kind of have a lot of transient information there. So I'm going to do that, and then we're going to EQ this. Again, this we can sort of high pass a little bit more. Alright, so we're seeing again, 200 is just such a messy region. I feel like it really like will crowd up your mix and make it sound pretty boxy. So just by doing that, like the snare drum already sounds so much clearer. Another trouble region's like 500-ish. But this we don't need to go quite as extreme with. I'm just sort of scanning the regions I know tend to be problematic. This could go two ways on like around like 2000. You either clean it up or you can give it a little bit of a tap. That we'd have to hear at reacts in the mix. And then let's just boost the top end a little bit on there. So before and after, right? Before with everything off. Yeah, it's sounding a lot better. And you know what, let's just solo these drums there. Alright, so next, let's find a section that has some toms. So we'll go in the toms mode on this one. Again, let's put it on grab. This is one where, depending on the style you're going for, it could be good if your toms are pretty have very sharp transients. You can always smooth it out, sort of act like a limiter and cut those transients off. But you know, these being the Modern Massive kit, they're captured really well, very balanced, so we can preserve those. I don't need too much compression on this. Let's just give it a little bit of air. You can play around with saturation on these a little bit. You don't want to go too nuts. Just warm it up a little bit. And then we'll EQ. So, here again, there's a lot of gunk in this low mid here. And you can also, around like 700-ish. If you like a scoop tom sound, really clean it up like that, and boost it up a little. And you'll notice I'm doing these sort of high shelves, and that's because I find that most source tones are pretty dull, especially when you're referencing a sort of modern commercial mix. And just these little moves, it's not giving a lot, but it all adds up, and it'll all make everything sound like it's the right sort of brightness. With the toms, you can always play around with a little bit of 100, kind of like you do on the kick drum. Wide spread. So without. And you'll hear these differences are not drastic, but this is the trick. Like, a lot of people don't, they want this one move to make all the difference, but it's really just these small little moves that all add up. So with overheads, I don't want too much compression. Actually seems to be doing. Essentially, it's giving it a bit more sustain on the shells. But I don't want it to interfere too much. I definitely don't want it to pump. Let's give it some air. Let's give it some sparkle on this. I actually like the way the toms are coming through on this. And again, I'm using the overheads a very unrealistic way here. I'm There's no kick drum. You can hear I've like eliminated that in Modern and Massive using the routing mixer in the settings. And put a lot of snare drum, and I use this as a way to give the snare more body. Again, it'd be very difficult to do this in real life, but we're not using real drums, so let's make the most of it. EQ wise, we don't really need a lot of low end or low mids. Make them nice and bright. In the sort of 4 to 4500 region, 4 to 5 even, it's a pretty harsh sound, especially with things that live in that range. There's a lot of harsh frequencies, like you can hear there. If you take them out, it really smooths out your top end. You hear that? Like it just opens up that top end in a really nice way. Or else are we getting boxy? Let's see if we can take out this. So we've got more extreme EQing, pretty subtle compression, but without and with. And that compression to just increase the sustain just so much without sounding like it's doing a lot. Like this is where you want a compressor that can be subtle when you need it to be. All right, now let's smash some stuff. I really like smashed rooms. I want to go and destroy that room. So it's very exaggerated. We're getting all this sustain. What's doing it? So this is recorded at Middle Farm. It's a pretty small room. The rooms as a result are very energetic, but there's not a ton of sustain. But we're basically using this to extract sustain. Like with it off, you know how much longer it is? Again, the only thing I'm doing on this compressor is just bringing the threshold down and watching the meter. But here we're getting pretty liberal with the amount. It's going to -10 there. I kind of like beefy sounding rooms, so we can up the beef a little bit. And I actually like my rooms to be a little darker, so let's take some air out. And you can also saturate a little bit. So I like that a lot. And then let's EQ this. We don't need it to do the work on the low end here. Make it a little less boxy. But we don't want to take too much out. So now let's see where we're at. So with these, if we were to just sort of disable these, this is where we were before, and this is where we are now. Just simple EQ and compression goes so far, you know? This is where you should start. Again, I'm trying to take us 90% of the way there. You can start to add plugins after this, but this is just to sort of get the basic mix going. But we're not quite done yet, because there's one of the biggest secrets when doing drums here, and that's parallel compression. So this has just actually been on, it sounds like, when we were doing that, but that's fine. We didn't have it set up. Now for this one, it's not going to get anything. You're gonna hear we're not hearing anything. We actually have to send something to it. So let's send a few things. Let's start off just by sending, and in Cubase is how you do it. You go to the channel that you want to send to it. So kick, we want to send some kick, parallel compression. We want to send some snare. We want to send some toms. I want to send everything really, so we might as well just get all these going. And it seems to have remembered my settings from before, so we'll see if those still work. Let's see. A good way to do this, honestly, this is something that will help stuff stay in the mix, so let's leave the mix going. We're gonna dial it in as we listen. That's the kick. All right, let's dial in the snare. All right, let's dial in the toms. All right, and now with overhead, I don't want the parallel compression bus to pump too much, but I also think that having just a tiny bit glues. You can see this is really low. I'm probably just gonna leave it around there. And same for room. I don't want too much. Now we can listen to the parallel compression bus. It's playing alongside the channels. That's off. And basically this is how I want to mix in. Alright, now the other thing, I should have probably dialed this in, but let's actually put this in grab mode. This is one where you really could sort of approach it two ways. In smash mode, you're going to lose the transients and you're going to increase the sustain drastically, and then you can basically use this as like a sustain control in your entire drum mix. In grab mode, you're going to get more punch out of it. But I'm absolutely smashing the parallel compression because it's, again, compression in parallel. It's happening in parallel to everything, and you mix it in. And that's the beauty of it. Alright, I think I like that there. And then let's, you know, some reverb on the snare always helps. Lately, I've been digging this QL spaces. There's this preset here that I like. Small drum room. I believe it's this one. And let's send some snare. That's the only thing I really care about sending to it. This one here. Doesn't sound great on its own, but listen to what it does in the mix as I bring it in. Too much doesn't sound good at all. Level some of this stuff. Kick was too loud there. Alright, yeah, so I think this is sounding pretty good right now. let's listen for comparison. So without, and this is all the work that we've done now. And that's just smash and grab on compression, FabFilter, Pro Q2, which I love for EQ, and QL spaces for the reverb. So it's 3 plugins, and just sending stuff to parallel compression is such a good little trick. So yeah, hopefully this is useful to you to get your mix going with this, or if you need to basically get a quick mix going, this is definitely good enough to write to. But I hope that this has been really helpful for you guys. So thanks so much for watching.